Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel DBK Funday. So today we are going to talk about one of the most interesting topic explored on Google or any of the searching web engine, and most of the learned topic on the technology training sites. So what is that basically? Let's see what is there in this video. So before we start the video, if you have not subscribed my channel, please go ahead and subscribe my channel, like the video, share the video as much as possible so that everyone can take benefit out of it, this topic. So in today's Tech Talk, DBK Funday will be presenting you database migration from on-prem to AWS. Guys, I'm too excited to present this topic to you all. Reason being, this is one of the trending topic in the market currently, because everybody is talking about cloud, migrating to cloud, moving to cloud, deploying to the cloud. Everywhere I could see in the technology, everyone almost says cloud, 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 be it AWS, GCP, or Azure, or any of the small scale clouds like, in maybe other companies like many. So without wasting much of your time, let's dive into the topic and understand, what we have brought you uh, in this particular video. And one more thing I want to tell you, do not leave this video in between, because you will not get a proper benefit of this video. See this video or watch this video until end, because in between I have given you lot of tips which can help you and ease your life during the migration of the databases from your on-prem to AWS. Today I'm just presenting on AWS. You can use same approach maybe on GCP or on Azure as well. It's not just dedicated to that, because I've just picked up the AWS because AWS is trending one. Also, I'm not saying others are not trending one. They're also trending it, but I've just taken that AWS. Nothing specific to that. But as I said, in the end of this video, I have shared you the list of commands which you can take and utilize in your environments to migrate the data. So let's see which database I have taken today. So, well, today I'm presenting DB2. DB2 UDB LAW, one of the best databases of the world, which is presented by IBM. IBM is the basically product owner of DB2. So today we are going to talk about how you can migrate your DB2 on-prem sitting on AIX server to X86 Linux. Can be Fedora, can be SUSE, can be Ubuntu, can be RHEL. How you can use your strategy of migration from on-prem to cloud, using what are the steps. I'm very excited to start the video. I'm sure you guys are the same excited as I am. So let's see that what is there in that next steps. So we are totally packed with the agenda today. What are the agenda items we have today? Database migration planning, migration strategies, comparison, cluster solutions, what all steps we need to take care when we are thinking and planning to do the migrations, migration strategies. Obviously, when we think about database migration, one point comes in mind: how much downtime I need to give, how long my application team will be waiting to database to come up, to connect and do all the processing, which long way people are waiting for. Data migration tools. Is there any tool? Is there any utility? Is there any software available in the market which can ease my job, which can help me to migrate the data with minimum downtime? I should not be waiting my user sitting on production. My production environment should not be hitting or waiting so long to migrate the data into that. So let's see, guys, what is there in that. So with start of the data migration planning from the agenda, first item, ensure, first thing we have to ensure, we are basically replacing Apple with Apple. So what I mean by Apple with Apple, what you have on X machine must have on Y machine. But but a big but here is IP series core are not equal to 1x86 core. It means clearly says, first of all, you need to ensure you have a sufficient resources and sources on the target as compared to the source one. But simultaneously, I'm saying the another word, okay, one P series core is not equivalent to one X86 core. It means we need much more resources in the target because my P series AIX is a robust machine, a superhero machine. So what we need to think about, because you are moving from P series to Intel or AMD processors. So think twice, thrice, prepare a strategy, talk to architects, think about how I fasten my process because I'm moving from one of the Iron Man to the different things. So if you see in the bottom, I have put very, very big font item that is sizing. It's not simple as one to one. Same thing which I said, we need to have apple to apple comparison. We need to replace Apple with Apple, but we need to think twice or thrice before building the target machines. So what we need to do that, let's see in the next section of this. So as I said, migration strategies, comparison. As I said, migration tools, software, and utilities. So here we are. So in DB2, we have certain inbuilt utilities. There is additional capabilities which comes along with the DB2, but we need to pay some little more to the vendor as mean IBM. So when I talk about in first row of this one, if you see, it's a DB2 move, load from cursor, export load, HPU, logical replication. We'll talk about these items in detail in the next sections of this particular presentation, particular video. See what this particular slide says about. So when I talk about outage, complexity, additional cost, failback, and database sizing. So guys, failback capability, right? So you everyone maybe with the IT and non-IT guys, if you think about one system is down, one side is not available, do I have any backup? Which I think about. Do I have something else? Something one option doesn't work, do I have another option to look for? Yes. In technical or non-technical term, we always think about the backup solution. Even though thinking about motor bicycle or maybe cycle, when your one tire is punctured, you always think about, do you have any backup to think about, so can I ride a long journey altogether? So same thing in database terminologies, we think about failback capability. What we have something like, if I need to fall back, what I need to think about, if X machine is not available, how I'm going to get that work done by using the any Y machine. So that's how the capability it is talking about. So in the bottom section, if you see, it's a very important thing for every DBA is to think before you select. Okay, DB2 move is fine, load from cursor is sufficient, export load is efficient, HPU is a super job, logical replication will keep my life easy peasy, something like that. But let's see what is there in that. So outage point of view, in DB2 move, it's a medium. Load from cursor, it varies. Export load, it's long because it's very traditional mechanism of moving data from A to B. HPU, again, it's basically medium one, but logical replication, it says short. So why it's saying short, we will see in the next sessions. So complexity, again, how complicated solution it would be. So DB2 move is a kind of internal utility to the DB2 database. It's a very low. Load with cursor, again, it's internally related to the DB2, but it's a medium. Export import, again, it's the internal utility of the DB2, like import and export, which is every there in the Oracle. If you talk about it is there. If you talk about Postgres, it is there. If you talk about SQL Server, it is there. Many traditional databases, maybe on cloud or non-cloud, it is available there. But this APU, when I say HPU, it is very low because it's a high processing unit. It gives you very low complexity. It's easy peasy to solve, but it comes with additional licenses. We'll talk about in the bottom one. Again, logical replication complexity is higher because we need to install a lot of things on source and target. We need to create a lot of things on as a subscription. So there are a lot of things which involves when we think about the logical replication. So replication is a simple thing. Replication is basically replicating or ditto copy of one sitting on the other side. So additional cost. So again, if you see additional cost, I have put first three item no. Reason, because it's internally related to the database engine. I would say it comes with DB2 as it is. So it's not I'm going to pay an additional dollar to somebody saying oh, I need to enable this utility. Can you pay? Should I pay you this much amount or not? But yes, these last two items, when you say HPU license, it is a license based. If I need to enable this, I would definitely seek assistance from my product owner and I would get some licensing allocated. Again, it depends whether my organization is going to bear that particular cost or not. Then again, logical replication, it depends on logical, it depends on license, it depends on which release of the database, DB2 database we are using, which version of DB2 we are using. That makes very much difference altogether. So failback capability, again, extract new data, extract new data, extract new data, extract new data, reverse replication, considering the fact DB2 move always work from A to B, not B to A. If you need to go for B to A, it's all another set of new things. Same thing lies for the load from cursor. If you need to do back and forth, that additional things are there, but it will not be working as we expect, right? But if you talk about the reverse replication, because tool has a capability, you can have a bidirectional, you can have back and forth replication, that is achievable. But again, what do you think as a DBA? What is the main thing to decide the strategies? Okay, which utility I need to use is to how I need to build my strategies all together. So basic thing is being a DBA, whether you're experienced or non-experienced, you have to think about how much data I am going to move. So the first question arises in the mind, what is the size of the database which I'm looking to migrate to the target one? So considering the 5 GB, 10 GB, 2 GB, 3 GB, it is in MBs, GBs or TBs, right? That defines which utility is going to help you to the most. So with that, let's go to the next one and see what is there with us in the next utilities. So with that, now we talked about the utilities, we talked about the tool, we talked about the replication. But again, I said failback, or maybe the availability of the resources. What kind of, let's say, for example, on-prem, we have a lot of high availability. As I said, like, if option A is not working, how I need to get the work done by using A. So it means you need something same, apple and apple comparison on the other side. So you always look for the same application data on other server. So simple, I would say the cluster solution is something like, a high availability of the data. When your X thing is not working, make sure you have a Y with X data sitting in that. That's in layman language. If I need to talk about, that's a cluster solution. That's a high availability. So one software may be coming with it was coming with the DB2. It is coming with the DB2. If you talk about the AIX, which is a TSA, which helps you to achieve the cluster solution. So what's new into the basically, because we are migrating from now AIX to Linux one. So now the futuristic approach and futuristic thinking would be what solution we see in the DB2, or maybe from the operating system standpoint or from the database standpoint, which can help me to achieve the cluster solution and achieve me to get the high availability. So what we see here, DB2 version 11.5.5.0 includes a replacement of TSA. Reason being because TSA is not helpful in our AWS. So what is replacing there? Specifically pacemaker and CoroSync on Linux is going to be the future of DB2 on cloud strategies, right? All future enhanced will be made to the pacemaker automation tool. This technology also be used by PureScale in the session 2021-22 timeframe. It means it is there in the market and we can utilize it. So AIX support for pacemaker is not available at the moment. Probably it may be available. I did not explore much that because I did not see any document saying in IBM documentation is AIX is supported by the pacemaker, or on AIX we can use the pacemaker, or other way around. But yes, TSA is used in the basically AIX very heavily. But if we talk about the cloud solution, TXSA, and the future use and future narrative of TSA would be the pacemaker. So as I said, like, we will be talking about what are the steps are going to involve in the migration. So as I said, when we talk about the AIX and RHEL, I've taken an example, or maybe we can consider as X86. There is a concept of operating system. I'm not going to get a deep dive, or I would say, like, I would not be deep diving into what is a big E or little e. It's a simple like big Indian and little Indian. It's a Indian. Indian meanings, it means it has a different architecture to follow, and big Indian, it has a different architecture to follow. So there is a difference in architectural ground. So when the architectures are different, it means not everything is going to work in RHEL, which used to work on AIX, or not all the things which are going to work, which used to work on AIX. So the data must be unloaded. First of all, when we talk about, moving the data from AIX to Linux, anything, Fedora, SUSE, Ubuntu, or Red Hat Linux, first you need to basically make sure you have some dummy structure created on the target one. The data must be unloaded, converted to the new format, and then reloaded on the database based on my experience in AIX, because it's all from the same family. Unix and Linux belongs to the almost same family of it. So it's not like, mandatory you need to change that data altogether. But again, it's a check we need to do as a validation when we do the migration of the data from AIX to Linux one. So what would be the step one if I need to talk about ideally? Extract the DDL from the source DB by using the DB2 look utility. Again, when I talked about the utility, so obviously when we say utilities, right, there is not an additional tool. That is not an additional tool which I need to pay. That is not additional software which I need to buy in. It's an inbuilt utility which is coming with the DB2 database itself or DB2 software itself, which I can use to basically fetch the DDL or the structure of entire objects or specific objects from the DB2 database. So the second step, once we get the extraction of the DDL by using DB2 look utility, probably I'll state the syntax as to what are the ideal command to use in this situation. That's what I said, like, you have to view this video or watch this video until end, because in end you will find a lot of good examples, good commands, which you can keep handy for your future deployments if you feel you are going to participate in cloud migrations. So step 2, create an empty database on the target database, target server. So what you need to do using DB2 look DDL, you need to basically first migrate that file, maybe moving that file by using FTP, SAP, WinSAP, any physical tool, or maybe any kind of utility or command which you are well versed of it, you can use from source to target, and then you migrate your DDL file from source to target and then create a dummy database before doing anything on the target one. Then third step comes in picture, like create the table spaces, buffer pools, recreate all the objects. Obviously, that's what contained in the DB2 look or out file. When you run the DB2 look, make sure you're giving DB2 look or DB2 look.out or DB2 look.ddl, DB2 look.sql. It's purely your choice which file system you would be, you would like to, which file name you would like to use in. So once that is done, copy the data into the new database. So what are the approaches? So now when we talk about the data, then I probably think about, like, what could be the best approach to copy the data from source to target. Now I have a structure in place, right? That's what I said. DB2 look utility is going to help me to create a dummy structure on the target database. Now I am good with the structure, but the challenge gonna come is when I'll be moving the data to the target one. So I think it was gonna be very exciting. Let's, I would say, like, let's continue with the video and see, like, I would say collaborate with this video and see how it is going to be. So several approaches are possible. That's what I have given the bold font here, like, saying what are the approaches I could use. Let's see that what are there. So again, as I said, like, when we show the migration strategies comparison, we talked about utilities and tools, what are available, licensed and non-licensed. But what are the migration strategies I'm going to use? So typically, being a DBA, you would choose these 4 strategies. But again, the last bottom line, you remember, which I showed you into the migration strategies comparison, where the database size matters a lot, is to which utility I'm going to use for actual migration. So DB2 look is going to help me to get the DDLs, dummy structure of the databases, and then load from cursor with federation is going to help me to load the data, then unload HPU load, that is again for the data migration. Logical replication is for the data migration. So if I say in nutshell, DB2 look is going to help me to create a dummy structure to the target and load from cursor, unload with HPU or load with HPU. Logical replication would help me to load the data, or maybe import and export utility I would use basically to migrate the data from source to target. So minimizing the downtime, again, the main thing which I talked about in initial steps, or maybe I would say, like, I talked in agenda. So minimizing downtime. So being a DBA, your first choice is how my downtime is reduced. How can I reduce my downtime? So that's the thinking everybody thinks, like, when you migrate data from, on-prem to the cloud native solutions. So using the logical replication products such as a Q replication or CDC. So CDC is basically a change data capture. It's IBM product again. Q replication is again IBM product. So whatever we are talking here at the moment, they all are related to the IBM. The vendor is basically the IBM for these tools. will provide the least amount of downtime. However, certain skills and product licenses will be required. So as I said earlier, whatever the database utilities you would be going to use, that you may be using on the daily basis, or maybe you are using occasionally, that's fine, that's fair, because you are well versed, like, what is the syntax, what you need to put source, what you need to put target. When it comes to the Q replication, SQL replication, or C replication, it means you need to acquire certain skill as to how Q replication works, how you need to set up the Q replication, how you need to set up the CDC. That is something, the additional skills you need to acquire. Again, knowledge is there on the Google, Udemy, LinkedIn, or many more like Edureka sites and all like that. You go and explore what CDC, IBM CDC change data capture does, and how the Q replication works in real time. That gives you the entire feasibility and visibility as to how you can set up that tool and how basically that tool works in. So again, why it is highlighting the Q replication and CDC in this particular slide and particular video, reason being because these are the two tools basically as a software tools which helps you to reduce the downtime of your application during the migration when you're thinking to go from on-prem to your post-prem, meaning cloud. So HPUU unload is a licensed product that would greatly reduce the unload time. Again, load time meaning like it says like no migration of data. So one thing is common in these two terms. One thing is common in these two terms is these two are the licensed product. So you have to pay additional cost to the vendor to purchase these softwares and utilize it. And provided that if you have a skill to utilize them as well. So if I talk about the data migration tools, so that's what I jumped to the data migration tools. So when we talked about like, if we think about the reducing the downtime, Q replication or CDC are the most valuable tools suggested by the vendor. Or maybe, in market, if you see. So these are the most promising tools which everybody uses when they think about migrating their data from, cloud to target, not to cloud, from on-prem to post-prem, meaning clouds. So if I talk about IIDR product, includes 3 technologies, right? So data replication. So IBM InfoSphere data replication. IIDR is basically simple terminology. IIDR, IBM InfoSphere data replication product. So when I say Q replication, CDC replication, SQL replication, these are the software of one bundle, which is IIDR. So that's what they're saying. This IIDR product includes 3 technologies that can be used. One is Q replication, build suited for DB2, DB2, homogeneous. Homogeneous meaning like system, right? But if you have a CDC, it is the best suited for heterogeneous. Heterogeneous meaning maybe source is a UDB, target can be Oracle. Source is a SQL server, target can be UDB. So you can use either way around. So SQL replication best suited for published subscription topologies. So it is mean if we say SQL replication, it means it can replicate and build. It's a solution basically based on publish and subscription. All the CDC is also the solution with the subscription where we need to create the subscription for each and every table, and then we can do that. So ideally speaking, these are the 3 tools from the IIDR bundle can help us to achieve what we are basically anticipating or what we are thinking to do with my data. As in, what was the topic like, how you can migrate your data from on-prem to post-prem, that is the cloud one. So what he says again, both Q replication and CDC can be used for migrating from AIX to RHEL. So how it can be used, let's see in the next topics and next slides is too. So as I mentioned, and as I promised, when I started this video is to see this video until end. Reason being, I'm going to give you a lot of tips, right? So what are the tips? Basically, CDC best practices state that the referential integrity constraints on the target be dropped for fast replay will be disabled. Because if you want your data to be loaded very quickly or fastly, you have to disable the constraints from the target. It means you need only downtime by the time you disable the constraint and load the data and enable the constraint. Because while loading the data, first you need to refresh, and CDC will do every delta changes from your source to target. So it means CDC's best practices is to drop the constraints. Is additionally, if it is not dropped, it will be taken care by CDC as well. But again, as I said, special skill has to be acquired to deploy the CDC and implement it. So Q replication, second part, Queue replication allows for RI constraints, referential integrity constraints, to be on the target with fast replay enabled. So it means when we say queue replication, it says it's okay if you keep the referential integrities on target, I'll take care of it. So why they are both emphasizing on differential integrities? Because you may never know, your source and target may be sharing the complex architecture on the physical model, on the logical model, maybe having a lot of foreign keys relationships, one-on-one mapping or one-on-many mapping or many-to-many mappings to the target one or the source one as well. So the tips are, when we think about the queue replication or CDC, make sure you analyze your referential integrity sitting on the databases. With that, let's see what is next there. So again, when we talk about any tool, right, obviously there are a lot of challenges comes in place when we talk about the replication challenges. So what they are? So what they say, like, if you think about the replication, right, you need to make sure things are very stable. Things should be intact, in line with the things what we are thinking what replication tool does. So table with no unique indexes may have a challenges. Generated always column, table with the identity column, data sequences, large objects, referential entities, tables with triggers that updates other tables. If you do have any of the state, if you have any of the case or basically use case from these all listed items, you may face some sort of issues. But as I mentioned again, there are basically solution to these issues as well. But again, how you need to tackle it? One tip here is, whenever you are going to extract the DB2 look, you need to make sure you check for the unique indexes, you check for generated always column with the default, you check identity always column with the always, check the data sequences, how many tables are with the large objects, how many tables has foreign key and primary key and foreign key relationships, how many triggers you have. Make note of it. As I mentioned in the first slide, migration strategy is includes, that includes these items as well. It's not just defining the hardware. It is also about the data modeling. It is also about what structures you have already in place. Okay, so with that, what is there in the next? Let's see with that. So what it says. So as I mentioned in the initial state, like, we are going to share you a lot of beautiful commands as well, which you are going to use in case you are somewhere, contributing to the migration from UDB, DB to UDB as an universal database. It is also called as from AIX to the Linux one. So useful commands, DB2 useful commands for migration. So what you need to do, as I talked about DB2 move, what you need to do to export all the data from AIX server, how to use DB2 move. As I mentioned, DB2 doesn't need to acquire additional licensing. It is basically built in with the DB2. So you can use that. You can use the DB2 move on the source server. Let's say, for example, DB2 move database name, export and hit enter, gives you database name. Give your database name in the DB name. So you can mention anything, your sample database name, your A, B, test DB, whatever it is. That will basically create the all export files. Okay, so copy all the files created by DB2 look into the target RHEL server system using the OS file moving utilities. As I mentioned, like, you can use WinSCP, you can use FATP, FTP, SCP, any basically, file movement utilities software, right, to move your file from source to target one. Once you have moved that particular, those particular files on the target one, connect to the source database and try collecting information on access on ID. So remember, this is the information. You see this query? This query will give you, like, what kind of authentication that particular ID has, which you are going to use for data migration. So bind authentication, connection authentication, no fenced authentication, implicit schema authentication, load authentication, blah, 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 and all like that. So these authentication must have with that ID, which I'm using for the migration. So what you learned from this particular section of commands is to how you need to export. If you want to export all the data from database in one shot, you need to use a single command, db2 move space database name space export. It will basically export entire data in listed files. From there, then you need to use a utility to migrate those files to the target one. Then obviously you need to run the db2 import command. So again, importing the data using db2 moves, how it is like that. Step one, first what you need to do is create an empty database using automatic storage striped across multiple systems. So if you see the create database, sample, automatic storage, yes, I have put on that. On path, DB2 storage 1, DB2 storage 2, DB2 storage 3, and default database path would be DB2 storage 4. So your database is going to sit on that, and whatever the table space is going to create, it will create into these three storage basically paths. So you need to collect to the sample. Once the database is created, run the query from the DB create. So what you need to do before you create the database, you segregate database objects in triggers and foreign keys. Keep foreign keys and triggers separate. Just create the database and database objects. Grant the same permission which we took in the previous slide, so that you make sure your ID has the same permission which is there in the source and target one. Then you need to import the data. So what is the command to import the data? From the files, from the section where you have kept the files. For example, you kept the files in one of the folder. From there, you need to trigger the DB2 move utility along with your database and hit the import. And also, in case you want to export, or I would say, like, if you want to import a specific, table, you need to use IO option for the import, in case of the specific table. So let's see what is there in this one. So DB2 useful command, again, the same with the same agenda. It is going to be, it is getting continued. So say step 5, run. Then once your data is copied, you can validate by using select commands with count 1 or count star on that. It's up to you how you are going to do that. You can you should be knowing, like, what kind of commands you need to use to fetch and validate the data in the source and target. Then what you need to do is run the fk and trigger script once the data has been loaded to the target tables. So same thing, db2 tvfs or tvxf or tvsf, you can use that and create by using this command. If you use this command, if you have everything in place, you can simply use this command and hit enter on that. And once everything is in place, make sure you are collecting the stats on all the tables. So, why we run the run stats? I would create a separate, basically, separate video, or maybe the PPT with the video on that, to show you, how we do the run stats and why we need to do the run stats. It is itself a very good topic in performance point of view. If I need to think about, if you think generally what contributes more in the performance, because it makes sure your stats are updated to the table, or stats are updated in the catalog tables, which is further used by your optimizer when there is a queries hit by the users, maybe complex queries or simple queries. Then once everything is done with the run stats, you can simply take the backup, because if something is going wrong with the database, it is you should have the backup, you can restore. Then again, the second option which I said, one option we have covered, that is the DB2 move. So you can try creating sample machine, and you can try with the DB2 move as to how it works in your basically lab. Then the second thing is load from cursor. So when you do the load with the cursor, right, specifically with nicknames, right, there is a federation concept which you need to apply. So if you need to enable the federation, right, make sure your DBM CFG parameter of that particular instance where the federation or federated is equal to yes. So federated is one of the DBM CFG parameter which has to be put as a yes, because by default it is no, to make sure if you're making use of load from cursor by using nicknames. Again, this approach will remain the same. Extract the DDL from the source by using DB2 look utility, move all the files, segregate the files with the DB2 create, foreign key and triggers, and move to the target server. Once everything is finalized, then you can run the database, run the DB2 utility command to create the database as a dummy database. Then you can later on move basically data by using the load with cursor. So how we need to do that? That is a fair command in the bottom. If you see, this is the command DB2 declare C1 cursor, select star from schema tab name with UR. So with UR, basically we need to add, because again, as I said, it's a real time. If someone is collecting or adding data to the source, it will keep on adding there. It will keep on reading that. Committed and uncommitted, but that is another thing that I'm not going to take much into that, because it's all it also itself a kind of one of the biggest topic for the isolation levels. You can think about and Google about that if you want to see the video. I would definitely do in future. So let's focus currently on this particular command. So once you declare the cursor, everything will be there in the memory. C1 is something like the parameter is defined, or memory, I would say it is defined, where all the select star from the table is loaded here. Then load from the cursor. Use the DB2 load from cursor. C1 of cursor messages will be stored. If anything goes wrong, test underscore load message, replace into schema. Replace means if anything is existing in the target one, it will replace and load new. You can put insert as well, right? So there are other options too with load which you can use. Okay, so this is the way, but these commands are not simply going to work just turning on the federation equal to yes. There is something much more you need to do on the database source and target to reach this. So source, you can do this one. So what we need to achieve in the target, let's see. So again, setting up the federation. So I think I should have put this site other, but I wanted to give you overview, at least to get your thought process landing as to how it is possible. I can directly run the, cursor, declare cursor, and then, load with the cursor. But this is the main topic here. This is how it is going to help you, is to understand what you need to do that. Again, the first step you need to do, DB2 update, DBM, CFG using federation. Yes. Then stop your instance, start your instance. This is something need to catalog. Cataloging is nothing. It's just defining the connection of your database on the target one. Okay, so these two commands you need to do that. I'll go these commands. I'll not going to get into the details of these commands. You simply read this, understand this. Any questions and concerns and thoughts you have, please write into the comment section and revert back to me. I would love to answer you all those. Okay, so these are the typical steps which we need to execute to make sure federation is enabled and I'm able to create the nicknames. If you see everything is done, what you need basically, in nutshell, you need to, once everything is done, you need to create a wrapper or DRDA. Then you need to create basically server using this DRDA with password and authentications which you need to use. It would be almost your user and your password. Then DB2 create user mapping. You need to map your user with database which you cataloged here. If you see DB2, AIX to Linux. And then once everything is done, you see you can create nicknames. Okay, so nickname, how we create, DB2 create nickname, source schema, table name for DB2 to AIX to Linux schema dot stab. Okay, so do all for, I mean, for all the tables which are in scope, you can do same repeated steps, not all above. Just create nickname. Create nickname you need to execute for all the tables which are in scope of your migration. So let's see what is there in the next one. So again, once everything is done, setting up the federation, what you need to do is you need to drop the existing table from the target one, create from the schema like, because as schema table name, you need to create the table like your source and then declare the cursor, which is the same command which I pasted earlier, and then you load it and then find the count in source and target. You could see the count is matching. It means one thing is done, our migration is successfully. You can see the data, hand over to the application teams, tell them, go and validate your data, whether it is fixed, anything is missing from the database, probably you need to look into it based on the error you receive at that moment of time. Okay, so again, as I said, and I promised in the initial, when I started this video, I'll keep sharing you the tips as to what are the tips we need to use. I mean, these are the tips basically, ideally, when you think about migration, what can be additionally or sophisticated way we can do so that, our migration are smooth and reach to the final level of cloud. So what we talked about? We talked about the generated always column. So what it says, the DB2 does not allow the queue replication program. It is talking about queue apply. It means it is talking about queue replication, not CDC, because queue apply does not apply to the CDC. Okay, so CDC we are not talking about here as a CDC. We are talking about the queue replication, because queue apply is for the it is not for CDC. It is for the queue replication. So you can read through that, create a unique index at the target if possible for the better application performances. Additional part which you need to take about data sequences. Why I highlighted here? Because data sequences are very important whenever you're doing migration from any unlike system like this use case which we are doing in. Because whenever you do the migration, if you have an active and standby, meaning you have a HADR environment and you are doing the migration, you need to make sure you are altering the sequences, one value added to that, so that whenever you're triggering the program or running or adding anything by using tool or any program, you are going to add the value to the target database, it should not fail. I'll share you, I'll see, like, I'll capture that error which says what happens if there is a sequences mismatch in source and target. So let's say, for example, if sequence is existing same in source and target, there will be issue in your database. So there is a check, your source and target sequences should not be matching. there should be differences in source and target sequence values. That's what additional tip which I need to give it to you guys. So with that, let's see what is there in the next one. Okay, so I think I was very exciting when I started presenting. So I would say thanks for watching this video. I appreciate your efforts and time which you have spent seeing this video. And if you're new to this channel, I would say go ahead and subscribe my channel, like this video, share this video, or comment. Or if you have any question, you can write or type into the comment section. Whenever I get a chance or time, I would definitely get back and reply back to your chat and your questions and queries. So until then, bye for now and have a nice day. Keep learning, keep sharing. If you want me to cover any specific topic from the database standpoint, specifically at the moment from the UDB side or DB2 side, do share in the comment section. I would definitely try to see if I can create any session for you guys and present in my next videos. So thank you very much. Thanks again for watching this YouTube video. Have a nice day.